What's up guys, Joe here back into the video. Today's video is what if Karol was in this Venture Camp All-Stars. So this was by fault, although you want to join the Magenta team. I did put a poll up for the theory and this will be a two-parter, which wasn't the case originally, but you commented this and I already made that video. So let's begin. So right off the bat, so episode 2 wouldn't change. I think Karol wouldn't affect the challenge because Jake would still get distracted. So I think the Magenta team would still lose this challenge. And I think Karol would be on board to get rid of James. But I think that Fury would actually try to make an alliance with Karol to get rid of James. Episode 3, this is where usually Lake gets out. I think Karol would be on board to sabotage the Cyan team. So they want to vote for Aiden, but they get rid of Lake. So Lake's eliminated. Episode 4, Alec makes the Villains Alliance. But I'm thinking we just add Karol to that, because she's not very popular. So what I think would happen is Alec would still throw the challenge to get rid of Miriam. Episode 5. This is where usually we have Hunter gets out. I think Karol would help race with Fury. I think Karol wouldn't affect the challenge. And I think Hunter would still get eliminated in the very same fashion. But they would just convince Karol instead of Fury. So at this point, episode 6, this is where Connor gets out. So Rhea would sort of do it on the lights. They go for Connor, pretty sadly. Episode 7, so the Villains Alliance is discovered. And at this point, Rhea, they want to get rid of Ellie. They want to get rid of Fury. Because the Magenta team originally lose the challenge. And I think Karol probably wouldn't affect it. And originally, Fury tries to convince Jake to vote for Ali. And in the original, Jake doesn't vote for Ali because he knows it's a tiebreaker. Because they're voting for Fury. And Fury would lose the tiebreaker. But here's the thing. Fury has Karol's vote, and Karol votes for Ali. Jake would not vote for Ali, actually, because they're close friends. But I think, in this timeline, Jake would vote for Ali, because Jake knows that they can just convince Karol, and would be easy to beat Fury in a tiebreaker. Like, if he gets rid of Fury, he knows that they'll vote for Karol next. And on top of that, they can try to convince him to say, well, Ashley might get rid of you next round. So I think, you can just put me this in the comments, but I think he would actually vote for Ali here. So I think Ali goes. Episode 8, this is the claw machines. So Jake and Aiden still fight. They sabotage, and I think Tess still flips, gets rid of Ellie. This annoys Karol. Episode 9. So, the Magenta team usually win this one. And I think they would still win. I don't think it would change. And I think they would still get rid of Tess because of Gabby. So, the merge. So we have the merge cast. Okay. So yellow, cyan, magenta. Alright. So the combat challenge then. Episode 10. So Alec usually wins because... So who wins immunity? The villains have majority at this point. They have 7 members. So I think Alec would probably still win immunity. And Gret and Yule, this is the point where they're arguing with each other. So would they rather get rid of Yule, or would they rather get rid of one of the heroes? Because Aiden and Jake are still arguing with each other. I think they still go for Ashley. I think they would go for Ashley. Karol would vote for Aiden. I think Gabby would vote for Yule. Yule votes for Gabby. But then these four would vote for Ashley. And then the other four. But I think Alec would realise it's better to get rid of Yule. Because if they get rid of, let's say it's Ashley, then they could chance a tiebreaker. Because if Yule and Gabby won't work together, it's better to keep Gabby around. Because Gabby would be more useful and more loyal to the team as an actual villain. So I think they would vote for Yule in this timeline. Even though Ashley would be a bigger threat. So episode 11 rolls around, and this is where we have the comeback challenge. I'm going to say in this universe it does not happen because we have an extra elimination. So there's no comeback challenge. This is just going to be another non-elimination. So there's no comeback challenge. In theory, this will be one episode shorter, but we can just say they win immunity as the challenge. There's no comeback in this universe because we have an extra player. So Rhea doesn't actually win immunity. So I think Rhea probably would still win immunity because it's Rhea. And I think Rhea could actually, in this one, I'm going to say she picks, and I think she would pick Fiore. The main reason is Fiore would be such an easy opponent to beat in the finale. And I think this is where the heroes still have majority. And Karol's like, let's vote for Aiden. But the other 5 would want to get rid of Ashley because she would be such a huge challenge threat. But I think they would agree to get rid of Aiden. As next time we go to elimination, they can just get rid of Ashley. Because Jake and Tom would be quite close as a pair. And I don't think Gret would start to flip at the heroes at this point. Because in this timeline, there isn't anyone she can really work with. And I think here they would vote for Aiden. Episode 13. This is where the Superheroes Challenge. So Gret and Gabby would win immunity because Ashley would probably have some water thing. Telekinesis like lightning like Aiden did. Actually, no, Jake and Ashley win immunity. And I think the villains would agree to get rid of Tom because he'd be the biggest threat. The TikToks. So, in the TikToks, Ashley and Jake, Fiore and Alec, Gret and Gabby, which leaves Rhea and Karol. So I think Gret and Gabby would still lose the challenge, and Gabby would still throw her own phone. Episode 15, Final 7. This challenge was weight off your shoulders, and I think Jake would still win immunity. I don't think Karol can match his level of enthusiasm, and him as an open book. So at this point, the villains would realise Ashley would be such a bad opponent to keep in the finale. I think Gret would want to get rid of the villains, but I think that she would realise Ashley would be such a bad opponent to face in the finale, so I think they would get rid of Ashley now, as they would have no real reason to keep her around. Episode 16. This is the horse race. So, in episode 16, I think Gret would still find the idol and she'd give it to Jake as, like, good faith, right? So she would make a deal with Jake and says, I'll help you win with the idol, right? So she gives Jake the idol by himself. And I think Jake's desperate enough as he would need an alliance. And I think Gret would still win immunity because, actually, no. Karol's really good with animals, so I think Karol would win immunity. And then I think Gret and Jake So the villains are obviously going to vote for Jake. And Fury and Alec are made up at this point, so they're going to vote for Jake. Rhea has no real reason not to go with the vote, so she's going to vote for Jake. And then Karol is also going to vote for Jake. So Jake has a decision to make between Gret and Gabby. So she would go to Gret would tell Jake who to vote for out of these group of people. Between Alec, Rhea, Gret, and Fury. Because he wouldn't want to vote for Gret because they're an alliance. I think the person he would choose to eliminate would probably be Rhea. Because even though Alec is a really massive challenge threat, I think he would rather face the chance that Alec could be easily convinced. Because Rhea has won several challenges and was second place last season, and that is already threatening by itself. On top of the fact that Rhea is a very massive challenge threat. Episode 17. So basically what happens is everyone votes for Jake, but Jake uses Zardo to get rid of Rhea. Episode 17. So Alec is shocked that somebody flipped on the villains. And at this point, Fury and Alec explain that they have to win immunity in order to survive challenges. So what would happen is usually in this challenge, it's the final 5. So I think this is actually the puzzles. Gret would still win. I'm sorry, this was the puzzles and Gret won immunity that one. But still the same result. So I think this is the horse race. So I think Karol would win this challenge. And I think Jake would vote for Alec. Gret would vote for Alec. Jake. So 2 on Alec, 2 on Jake. So it's actually tricky to figure out who Karol would side with in this situation between Jake and Alec. But I think Gret could convince Karol to vote for Alec. Because Alec and Fury are very close. But I do think Karol would lean more to get rid of Jake. Because she does have an alliance with Fury and they were actually seem to get on pretty well mostly throughout this season. So I think she gets rid of Jake. Episode 18. State of Shock. So I think Alec would win immunity. There's no contest. I think Alec would just win the challenge. And I think Alec and Fury would convince Gret to get rid of Karol because Karol would not be a good opponent to face in the finale. Even though Fury is a smart, strategical threat, she would realize that Fury would be easier to beat than Karol. So they vote for Karol. So Karol would have come 4th place in this scenario. 19 on elimination, so 20. So the helpers then. Alec gets Connor, and they make up. Fury gets Karol, and they would probably get on alright. And then Gret would get Yule. So they race to the end. I think Alec and Fury would work together to try and sabotage Gret. And I think it's close, but I think Alec and Fury would get out before Gret here. There's no way I can see. Like, you and Gret would argue for the entire time, so I don't think they'd get out. So, I think in the end, the winner would be Fury, as Alec would refuse to fight her, because she is his friend, and he's not going to fight a kid. So, Alec is my favourite character, but I think Fury wins the season. So, thank you guys for watching. This thing, I make sure I think this is what I've gone. I made sure I think this is what I've gone. Karol was on the Magenta team, dispatched 10 Pole Stars. And yeah, peace for all.